In 2002, a young man from Norfolk, England became one of the most infamous lottery winners in British history. His name was Michael Carroll, and when he won the UK National Lottery at just 19 years old, he thought his life would finally be something better than the chaos he had grown up with. But instead of fortune bringing peace, it brought pressure, temptation, and destruction. That year would be the beginning of a rise and fall so dramatic that tabloids gave him a name that would stick with him forever: the Lotto Lout. Carroll never had an easy start. His father died when he was just a boy, and he bounced through foster care and trouble with the law. School was difficult, structure was absent, and hope felt like a luxury. By the time he turned 19, he was working as a garbage collector and wearing an electronic monitoring tag from a minor offense. To most people looking at his life from the outside, nothing suggested that a future full of wealth and celebrity was waiting around the corner. Then came November 2002. Michael bought a lottery ticket at a local shop, a routine purchase he'd made before with little expectation. But this time, the numbers matched. Suddenly, this young man with a rough past was worth £9.7 million, around $15 million at the time. It should have been the beginning of a generational transformation. It could have been the moment he changed his life forever. At first, Michael said he wanted to help his family and live normally. But money has a way of exposing vulnerabilities, especially when it arrives overnight without guidance or experience. And Michael Carroll had never known discipline, financial education, or trust. He had only known survival. Almost immediately, his life became a whirlwind of attention and excess. Reporters swarmed his neighborhood, neighbors turned into opportunists, and distant relatives appeared from nowhere. The young, energetic winner suddenly found himself surrounded by people who encouraged the wildest impulses. He bought a mansion in Swaffham with a huge yard, and then filled it with racing cars, quad bikes, expensive jewelry, and designer clothes. He threw giant parties that turned the once quiet village into a constant spectacle. Loud music, booze, crowds, chaos replaced calm. And the spending didn't stop there. Carroll had a passion for thrills, and he discovered them everywhere money could buy. He admitted that he spent a horrifying amount, believed to be around £2 million, on drugs, alcohol, and nightlife. He surrounded himself with new friends, many of whom stayed as long as the money kept flowing. Michael later revealed that he also gave away a huge portion of his winnings, helping family members, buying them houses, cars, and comfort. In his words, "I looked after everyone else. I gave my family about £1 million each." When the tabloids called him selfish, greedy, and irresponsible, he defended himself by saying that generosity was always his first instinct. But the more he gave, the more people wanted, and the less they appreciated. Soon, arguments over money fractured relationships. He admitted later that the wealth did not make him feel loved, it made him feel used. As time passed, his drug use accelerated. He was arrested multiple times, sometimes for fighting, other times for driving offenses or drug-related behavior. The grinning teenager, who once held the big check, had become a troubled young man desperate to keep the excitement going because deep down, he feared what would happen when the buzz stopped. Meanwhile, the once lavish mansion became a symbol of his downfall. Its walls bore the evidence of chaos, smashed windows, destroyed furniture, and constant disturbances that terrified the neighbors. Police were frequently called. Complaints stacked up. Eventually, the bank balance fell from millions to thousands, and then to nothing at all. By 2010, just 8 years after winning nearly £10 million, Michael Carroll was officially broke. The mansion was sold, the cars disappeared, the parties ended, and the Lotto Lout became a cautionary headline. Most people expected him to spiral further into poverty and trouble, maybe even prison. But then something changed. Perhaps it was the silence after years of chaos. Perhaps it was maturity. Or maybe it was just survival instinct kicking in again. But Michael Carroll made a decision almost no one expected. He returned to work as a garbage collector, the same job he had before becoming rich. To the public, this was shocking. A man who once drove fast cars and lived like a rock star was now waking up before dawn to ride in the back of a refuse truck again. Tabloids mocked him, from millionaire to binman. But Michael didn't seem bothered. For the first time in years, he had routine, purpose, and privacy. People asked if he regretted it all, the wild spending, the lost money, the wasted opportunity. But Michael gave an answer that stunned many: "I don't regret a thing, it was the best thing that ever happened to me." He explained that being rich had shown him the worst sides of others, and that happiness doesn't come from money, it comes from peace. "I'm happy right now," he said in an interview. "I'm not skint, I'm solvent. I get my wages every week. I like it." Later, Michael found even more stability. He got sober, focused on building his life back up quietly, and eventually moved to Scotland for a fresh start. He found normal employment and peace in a lifestyle that tabloids would never call glamorous, but that he found fulfilling. He never tried to hide from the past. He acknowledged his mistakes openly, sometimes even joking about them. He said the money amplified every temptation and placed him in the middle of a world he was never prepared to live in. The sudden shift from having nothing to having everything had torn apart the fragile support system he once had. Michael Carroll's story became a case study in what can happen when a young person with trauma and no guidance is given millions without structure. Financial advisors have since used his name as an example of how not to handle sudden wealth, but some also use it to show that a person's worth is not tied to their wallet. Carroll is proof that losing millions is not the same thing as losing yourself. He found a way to start over, not because he had wealth, but because he rediscovered work ethic, humility, and who he was before the jackpot. Today, his story still fascinates people across the world because it represents both a fantasy and a warning. The dream so many people chase, overnight wealth, can become a nightmare if someone isn't ready for the consequences. In the end, Michael Carroll became famous for wasting money, but the deeper truth is that he gained something he values more than fortune: a second chance at a real life. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to subscribe to True Lottery Stories, where we share the real lives and hidden truths behind the world's biggest jackpots. True stories. Real winners. Real consequences. Subscribe and discover what happens after the jackpot.